And we are live. Myself, Mr. Les Thomas, Mr. James Tusk from Lviv.
I can't get rid of this stupid haircut they've given me with this little, I don't know, thing coming down. It's really annoying. It doesn't look good. I might have to do the old rabbi and snip it off myself.
Oh, you got the old little sort of sticky up there, haven't you?
Some sort of fucking weasel. It's the sort of thing the guys on the group would have. The guys on the edge, some sort of weasel mark of the weasel, mark of the flannel.
The mark of the flannel. So anyway, this is one of our bonus webinars for the people in our group, The Edge, but it's also for you guys as well. Anybody who's watching who hasn't made the absolutely most sensible decision that you could have done of joining The Edge. Why the fuck didn't you? But regardless of that, you're getting this for free from the kindness of our hearts because we're so generous and loving and giving and all the rest of it. So this is a webinar basically about Nightgame and how to do Nightgame as a man with Edge in 2023. So obviously we're going to be talking through that. This is going obviously to James's channel, James and Les's channel. This is also on my channel, my Twitter as well. So wherever you're joining us from.
I'm just handing on to the WhatsApp group, so I'm not deliberately ignoring you guys. It's I'm just spreading the love.
Yeah. So, and as we go through, if anyone's got any questions or anything that they want us to touch on specifically or whatever, put them in the chat because obviously we want to make it as actionable for you guys as possible, basically. So, with all of that being said, what about you, James? Have you actually done any night game since you've been in Ukraine, or has it not really been on the cards?
Lviv doesn't really have any clubs. The best clubs to go to are probably the strip clubs. They're actually really fun. The girls are really hot, and the atmosphere is just very cool. But obviously, with the curfew in Lviv at midnight, and now in Kiev the curfew is 11. Proper clubs,
really.
Yeah,
they bring it.
It's actually good. I love it because the student was saying it as well. Basically, go out at 7 p.m. a bit like the old days in London, and then you're home by 11. And you either get a girl home or you get an early night, and you're not up till 5 a.m. doing pointless shit. So it's actually a bit of a blessing, I think.
So with Kiev, out of interest, did they bring that curfew back so that it's like strict for foreigners and stuff as well?
No, it's not for foreigners. I can be on the streets with no issue. It's just for Ukrainians. But there's no point me being outside because there's nothing to do. It's just people walking around with AK-47s and no one else. So,
yeah, fair enough. So just as a starter for 10 on Nightgame, I think one thing that's quite important is the nature of the night game venue, because a lot of guys, they'll come for advice about this, or they'll come onto the course or whatever, and they'll be like, yeah, man, so, how do I do night game? And they'll describe the local club that they go to or whatever. And it's just this fucking, it's this bottle service kind of place where you've got mega bitchy girls sitting behind the velvet rope, and everyone else is crammed in like sardines to this little bit by the bar. And, it's just that I think, what it comes down to is some venues, some sorts of clubs, if we're talking clubs specifically, are better for night game than others, right? Some are pretty shit, to be honest, and I wouldn't even really bother for the most part. So really what I'm saying is the places, what it all comes down to is come and join us in Bogota, because the best night game in the world is at this one club in Bogota, and everywhere else is shit. Because like places like in London where there's VIP and bottle service and stuff like that, I mean, I'm just, you might be able to pick up a few stragglers there, but for the most part, it's not really worth it. What you want is somewhere where everyone's dancing, everyone's partying, having a good time. There's not really the sort of VIP thing. You can just get stuck in and just, take it from there, right?
Yeah, I agree. And to be honest, I think Les, when he was single, had the same sentiment, which is we didn't really bother in Europe doing night game. It was just not, the juice isn't worth the squeeze most of the time. They tend to be sausage fest, the venues, unless you're a promoter and you can sit on the table, then it is worth it, I think. But if you don't know a promoter in Europe, it tends to be pretty hit and miss. I like cool cocktail bars, but for night game, in terms of going out, actually meeting people, I think Latin America, particularly Argentina, Mexico and Colombia are the best spots.
Yeah. So I suppose that's another point, because there's different shades of night game, isn't there? Because you've got night game as in going to a banging club, which is one thing, but you've also got bar game, and then you've also got that sort of like in between thing, which people used to call gutter game, but is really more effectively like doing day game, but into the evening when people are hanging around outside the venues, which is one of my personal favorites, actually.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's very productive, I guess. Do we want to talk about that or more of the actual inside a venue?
Maybe inside the venue, given I guess we got to do what it says on the tin. But just, I suppose, just as an FYI, one thing you can do, which is quite fun, if clubs and things or bars really aren't your vibe, you can just go to those areas and sort of, talk to people who are milling around outside. That can be pretty cool.
When it works, it's very effective. I remember spending time with Les and a couple of maybe Ege in Playa del Carmen, and the clubs and the bars were turning into absolute sausage fest by 11. But if you're just outside and you're approaching outside, it was very productive just to pull girls away. So if you are in a place where maybe the nightclubs aren't very good and they are kind of, the ratios are bad, sausage to prawn cracker, then I think standing outside and doing, as you said, gutter game, you call it, would be the optimum way.
Yeah, I don't really like that term gutter game, to be honest. It's a bit of an old, sort of early 2000s kind of term, but because I mean, what that's implying is more like you're going there at 3 a.m. and picking up the stragglers, which is again is a strategy that works. I mean, the way I'm thinking of it more is it's basically day game, but in the evening, out in busy areas where there's bars going on. I guess gutter game's a quicker way of saying that, though. I don't know. Anyway, you get.
I know what you mean. We know what you mean.
But all right, so Les, what's your take on? Are you going to the banging club every night and on the podium with your shirt off and then?
Yes, he used to do that. Absolutely.
Really? One or two occasions, yes, but I've toned it down since then.
What was that place in Soho you used to love going to on your own and just dancing on the pole with your shirt off? Freedom Las Vegas. You used to just go there on your way.
Yeah. So what we were talking about, Troy, is yeah, that's let's not go down that road. But I'm not the biggest club person. I enjoy going out, with some mates. But again, I think it's the mindset that you have when you go out as well, which I think we should talk about as well, which is not going out with a mindset of it's contradictory, but not going out with a mindset of pulling, but rather going out with one or two mates and then just going out with the mindset of having fun and just making it as fun as possible. It doesn't necessarily matter where it is. I think whether it's on the street. Personally, I don't think it's worth walking around at 3 a.m. picking up drunk chicks either. Unless you are in Playa del Carmen, coming off a come down. But yeah, so I think the mindset is the most important thing, man. Going out with the mindset of just having fun, and then you're more likely to pull anyway. Wherever it is, whether it's a cocktail bar or a big thriving club or whatever it may be.
17 watching. It's good to be unemployed. Exactly. Well, actually, there's more like 30 people watching now, and it will probably go up as it always does. But good. Hello to our unemployed brethren who are watching this nonsense. But I mean, well, yeah. So mindset is super essential. Now, as it turns out, James Tusk, who is renowned globally for being a day game expert, is actually, if anything, probably a fucking better night gamer than he is day gamer, which was a little known fact. And I didn't even really know until those momentous occasions in Colombia when you just went out and completely stormed it. So I guess really that's what we've got to talk about, because the way that you've done night game is actually similar to the way that I've done night game in the past. And we were kind of, doing the same sort of thing. But I mean, basically, I suppose I'll encapsulate it. You just go around, have a fucking blast, talk to everybody, just bring everybody into the party, women, dudes, who the fuck ever. And then from that, you'll see certain birds obviously going to be massively drawn to that. And then I guess as time goes on, those are the ones you start to capitalize on, or,
I define my style I've developed for night game. My refined style is, I'd probably term it as cocaine headless chicken.
So my refined style of night game.
Essentially getting ramped up on various.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely wild, charging around different venues, pouring drinks on people, including myself at times. And I think the Colombians just see me as this kind of beautiful barbarian beast, eyes goggling, phlegm coming out of various orifices, and it's almost like this kind of, let's just observe what he's doing, and they kind of get sucked into the vortex.
So, Mr. James, I've tried the headless chicken. I've tried the cocaine headless chicken approach in my local Yates's in Hull, and I got arrested.
You're going to get people now like putting like mountains of cocaine and just putting their head in it and say it's dripping, and then just charging into venues thinking that's what I mean. It's not.
Well, I mean, although that would probably be.
Well, it is actually. It actually is. I mean, Les is a man of my own heart with this because I've had some nights out in Bogota, and he's exactly the same as me. And I imagine if you were still on the source, Troy, the same as you, which is
I think look, let's be fair here. I think I held up pretty well. I mean, given
very well, and I think the mentality me and Les actually have is let's not go and do night game. We'll just go for a quiet drink, but we happen to walk into a busy venue.
Yeah,
we have one shot of Aguardiente. We say, right, we're just having one, and then we're calling it a day. And then 5 minutes later, we both got several bottles, and we're just charging out the venue. So it's actually accidental night game most of the time. It's not even planned. But look, we're just out literally to have a blast. We always talk about this, but we're just trying to actually just have fun and enjoy the night. And it works like this kind of, solar ball of energy, which drags people in. Women love to be around it because women want to have a good time. And it's so much better. Like they see we don't give a fuck, basically. It's that zero fucks attitude and come, alongside actually wanting to have fun. And that seems to draw people in. And we're not selective. We're not kind of standing around going, the guys can't get involved anyway. It's just anyone in the vortex. We're just trying to have as much fun as we can. And that really sucks people in. And we've done similar nights, Troy, as well, haven't we, in Bogota?
Yeah.
And it's very effective as a night game strategy because, again, like Les says, it takes the pressure off trying to get laid. The biggest issue guys have is this outcome dependence of if I don't get laid, they've hyped themselves up for 2 hours. They've sat with their wings in their lair, discussing night game in deep theory. But if they listen to some RSD, wanked off to that a few times. And they're like, right, we've got to get laid. It's like they're going to war. And it's like, if you don't get laid, the entire night was fucking pointless. But it's a terrible paradigm to operate from, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's got to be about having fun. I think as well with night game, you have to somehow lean into the absurdity of the night game scenario because basically, right, because everybody is, for the most part, is drunk. A lot of people are off their head, whatever. They're sort of saying crazy shit. They're doing crazy shit. You've got to sort of lean into that, whether you're, on doing those similar substances or not. You've got to just sort of throw yourself into that mentality. Do you know what I mean? What you don't want to be is like the boring sort of accountant at the bar who's sort of like, she's just going mad, just going crazy dancing. You're like, so anyway, but tell me about your 401k or, you've got to just like. You're in an environment that is by definition absurd anyway, because people are just doing this fucking crazy wild shit. So you've got to be like that. And in a way, you've got to be more like that because you've got to, which is, I think, what Tusk does and what you're talking about, which is like, you've got to always be larger than life in the environment because there's so many distractions. She's got the lights, the music, other dudes walking around, whatever. You've got to almost be bigger than all of that in order to draw them in.
Yeah, it's an artificial environment, isn't it? And you can walk in and just recreate yourself that night. You can decide. It's literally a decision, right? I'm going to walk in and I'm going to, a really good theory behind this would be the 6 years of challenge stuff. And he's saying, just go out as social as you can, but walk out the house. And even if you're an introvert, Troy, you talk about this, stepping into the role of someone extroverted. Just say to yourself, for the next 2 hours, I'm going to act incredibly extroverted and have fun. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, doesn't it? With how social you are and how fun you are and how much of a flow state you're in. And you let go. It's like the social chains have been ripped off and you just stop giving a fuck basically. And it's extremely fun in that state of mind.
Yeah. We've got sorry, Troy, go for it, mate.
No, just for that. Yeah. Just for that period. So however long because the reality is, people think like you're realistically, you're probably going to be out for like it depends, but like say 4 hours, 5 hours, maybe 6 hours, whatever. It's not huge.
Not that long. 3 hours.
Sorry?
3 hours probably, unless we're in the place, the church, the holy church.
Yeah, I was thinking more of like a midnight till 6 a.m. if you were going to do that. But for the most part, you don't have to even do that. You're out for say 3 hours, so it's a very finite amount of time. It's not like the rest of your life that you've got to be this super party guy. It's like 3 hours. It's like, right, I can turn it on for that period of time. Then I go home and I can go back to my inner flannel again. It's fine, like for this period, I'm going to be just for this period, I'm going to be the nightlife barbarian,
Yeah, we have a mutual friend, Pete, who coaches a lot of night game. And one thing he says, which really resonated with me, I think a lot of guys can use this as well, which is when you walk into a venue, almost just think to yourself, right, I'm leaving the ego at the door. Like I don't have anything to live up to. I'm just going to have fun tonight. Just going to take it easy. I don't have to be this serious person. I could just step into this new character like you gents are talking about. Something I found that helps massively with night game, right? Because I see this mistake a lot. A lot of guys will, do the the stereotypical thing of planning on going on a night out, and then they won't be social at all, and then they'll go to a venue, talk in their little huddle, and then do the sniper approach. They'll see a cute girl and they'll do the beeline, go and approach, get horribly blown out, and then run back to their mates with their tail between their legs. And that's probably the worst approach that someone can use. Something that I found that helps me massively, especially if you're going on a night out, is to actually build up that social momentum before you even get there. So as soon as you leave the house, you just start talking to people, even guys, girls, it doesn't matter. Like, you see a guy, hey, what are some good the old James, what are some good recommendations in the city Tusk routine? Going up to people and just asking them, hey, what's a good place to go out? A good bar. Hey, where are you from? Blah, blah, blah. You talk to the bouncer, you talk to the first person that you see before you even, as soon as you're in the club or the bar, whatever it is, guys, girls, it doesn't have to be specific, right? And then you build up that social momentum, and it makes it literally is the game changer in terms of determining how the night's going to turn out, right? I've found at least. I think,
I think that's right. Yeah, you have to just be, as soon as you leave the flat or the apartment, whatever, you have to be like, right, I'm going to be fucking super social and just talk to everybody. And it really, it makes a massive difference. Because like you said, if you go all the way to the bar, you don't talk to anybody, you walk into the bar cold, and then you see this super hot girl at the bar, are you really going to have the momentum necessary to go up and talk to her in the right sort of way? Probably not. You're probably going to walk up and go, hello, I'm a bit of a flannel, but I quite like to I quite like to touch you with my penis. And it's just not really a fucking fly.
Yeah, I agree 100%, man. And I think as well, people can sense that as well, which I think is such a good technique. If you are that person who's just being very social with everyone, you're standing at the bar, you're having a drink or two with your mates, you talk to the guy on the left, you talk to the guy on the right, and then if a girl walks past, you talk to her, and it's not like you're doing this weird sniper approach, like you've broken out of the war circle and you've gone and tried to snatch her back into your little cave. It's like you are just bringing people into that energy, right? And as James was saying, I think it's amazing because so few people do this. Like, this is, so many guys do this, where you'll look in a situation, you look at a bar, and you'll just see little huddles of men, right? And they're all drinking their drink like this, and occasionally they peer around like this. And it's so seldom that you actually see a group of guys that are just chilled, easygoing, having a good time. And that is a massive magnet, man, that all the attention in the bar goes there. Everyone wants to be a part of that. And I found that if you're creating that, I'm not saying you shouldn't approach girls, but naturally they just drift into that circle that you create. And then you don't have to do the sniper approach where you're going to approach someone, you get horribly blown out, everyone sees, and then you're done, right? Because it's not like day game where, you get horribly blown out and then you just carry on walking. Like, everyone sees, right? So it's a different environment.
It is and it isn't. I mean, Colombia and Mexico, when you go for nights out, you can actually just get blown out loads of times in the bar. And there's such a high turnover and we're changing venues so much, it doesn't actually matter.
Yeah. Yeah,
I guess it depends on the venue as well, though, right?
Well, I think you're both right. It depends, like you said, it depends on the venue. If it's a fairly small venue, then obviously it's going to be more noticeable. If you're in Teatron, it doesn't really matter. But I suppose the bottom line is, for people who are concerned about the spotlight effect, for people who are concerned about other people looking, you're probably, I'm going to guess, you're probably going to feel that almost more in a club, because you're going to be in this enclosed environment. You're going to think, fuck, what if I see her again? Whereas in the street, at least you can just walk off and, and go somewhere else. So the point is well made, which is you be that life and soul of the party. Don't be the sniper guy. You know what they used to call that? The group of guys standing around with their drinks.
Chode crystal, didn't they?
The Chode crystal.
The Chode crystal is fucking great. It's like,
that's so funny, man.
So basically, don't do a Chode crystal, which is when you go with your friends and you've all got your drinks and you're just standing there like this in a little circle together, like, oh, shall we approach?
Yeah. I mean, the benefit of obviously joining us in places like we keep saying it, but Mexico and Bogota it's so sociable, the places anyway. It's not like going to an Anglosphere club where there's all this kind of like, I don't know, people have got their egos up and they're all playing this image. It's not like that at all. It's people are just having fun and being social. So you have to really resist it to not get dragged into that. Naturally speaking, Les, there's this, when you're speaking, I'm thinking of that place where literally what I was saying happened, which is we went in there, we both were, okay, we're just going for one. It's the place like in the zone of tea. And then I just remember you being like, oh, yeah, good idea. And then turning around 5 minutes later, you just got 2 bottles of Aquagente going, whoosh. I was just like, God, he's beating me to the punch. I couldn't believe it. But it's so like that. It's so funny. It's called like, oh, the name eludes me, but I don't know if you remember the one. I think you know which one I mean.
Yeah, I remember exactly that one. I think that was in Bogota, though, not Mexico City.
Not Mexico City, but Mexico City's got Departamento. It's got some cool spots as well. You know, they're similar. They're very cut from the same cloth, really.
100%, 100%. I think a great strategy that guys can use as well, right? Because a lot of the time when guys go out, they'll find one girl who's half interested, and then they'll just stay with her for the whole night. And then chances are she's going to go home with her friends, right? So if you are, you know, just doing the human centipede stream of thought routine, if you are doing that thing where you go out, you're just having fun with some mates, then naturally you're going to be meeting a lot of people. You're going to be meeting guys, you're going to be meeting girls, and you can just get numbers, get Instagrams of everyone, right? So it's a great place to make contacts in terms of guys, you know, learning the place, you know, meeting people who know the place a lot better than you, but then also from the girl perspective as well, right? If you're just being social with absolutely everyone, you're getting the numbers, you're getting the Instagrams, then at the end of the night you got 50.
Oh, yes, your volume's gone, Les. Your volume just went. You back? Oh,
Les is
yo, give me a sec.
Back now. You just cut off. Said you when you've got 50. I think you're going to say contacts. It was literally the last 2 seconds.
Yeah,
but you make a good point. And actually, Bogota, Mexico City, when I've gone out doing night game, that's exactly what I do. I'll get contacts at the time and even take a little selfie video prancing around with a bottle of thing with her, and then wait and send it to her right then and there. So then you can just get a load of leads. And at the end of the night, when you're going home, you're like, okay, you message them or just say, hey, what are you doing? Come for a drink. And you've already 100%. Built that bridge. It's like a thing out of the blue. So that's a tip that works really well in Mexico City and Bogota, is actually message them at the time with a video message of her having fun with you right then and there on the camera. And she remembers it. But it's you're right, Les, and Troy, you mentioned it as well. But it's such the opposite mentality to everyone I've ever gone out with doing night game that teaches it or whatever, because it's too tactical. They're trying to be too. Unless you're a promoter sitting on a table, you just don't have the value to do that, in my opinion. It's just a waste of time because night game's so fluid, and you're going to get more flakes in night game as well because substances are involved, alcohol's involved. The mentality of just going out and having as much fun as you can is just the correct way of doing it. And then also getting as many numbers as you can, but it's symbiotic to actually create this environment of fun.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned value, because when you think about value, so like most guys, when they do night game, they're not really they're not really offering much value. I mean, they're walking out, so oh hey, hello, I'm a bit of a flannel. I'm looking to have a you know, is your
they're trying to do a lot of day game stuff at night. That's the problem we seem to get, because obviously we kind of advertise day game as the thing we teach a lot of. But I know from my own experience, I think Les was the same. We actually enjoyed historically night game as much, if not more than day game, but it was just simply you can film day game very easily, and we're traveling with it. So, and there's so many knock-on benefits to develop your social skills for day game, but night game is more fun. And I think guys get confused because there's a lot of kind of day game purists that watch our channel who are like, oh, what? Going to a bar? And it's like, there's like vampires, and there's a Madri cloves of garlic and crosses at the door where they're like, oh, and they go in, and exactly like you said, Troy, they try and have these really fucking bland conversations that might cut it in the day because they've opened with a compliment, but it's not going to work at night. Girls are there to have fun. They're there to have fun with their friends. They can't hear what the guy's saying. Maybe they don't speak English. And so you need to be more physical and more fun.
I think, that's a good point. And I think with day game, I think another difference with day game is that, because I was recently in Miami, I was working with a couple of guys. We did day game and night game. Now the night game, it was that it was more bar hopping really, and then going into things that were sort of bar stroke clubs. So there were dance floors and stuff like that. It was that sort of night game. Anyway, what I found was with night game, I think you've got to turn it up to 11. So if in the daytime, you can be quite sort of understated, blah, blah, blah. At night, you've got to be a lot louder. You've got to be a lot more flamboyant. You've got to be frankly, you can be a lot more sexual and direct as well. And you can go towards touch. Again, disclaimer, you know, don't grab her by the Donald Trump, you know, but you can be a lot more sort of like, you know, direct, sexual, just really amping it up. You know, it's not good enough to just do like a sort of like, oh, well, I read this on page 397 of Day Game Mastery, so I'm going to do the cube now. Do you know what I mean? Fuck all of that. You've got to be bigger. You've got to be bigger than the fucking venue.
Yes. I think this is a good point as well, right, Troy? What you're saying is that a lot of people, and I'm so guilty of this, right? When I started this, I was such a one-trick pony. I was good at the 2 or 3 minute routine on the street, but as soon as you put me in an environment where I actually had to be social with people and have normal conversations, I just stood in the corner, you know, just going, are you friends with your brown hair? And it just didn't work, right? Because, yeah, you need more than that, right? You need more than that. You need more than that.
I think you've just got to be bigger. As I say, like really, if you think about your competition is the other dudes in the venue, but it's also the venue itself, because you know what girls are like, oh mate, we're just dancing, you know, we're just here with the girls and stuff like that. You've almost got to
yeah.
You've almost, and again, people will be like, well, you're being a dancing monkey or jester maxing or something. But I mean, not really, because you're also having fun for yourself. But you've just got to, because what I was coming around to saying before is, if you think about value in the club, you know, who, classically speaking, the person with value in the club might be the dude who's paid like 50 grand for the table and he's got the bottles of vodka and everything else. That guy has the most obvious value. But if you're charging around, being the life and soul of the party, you've also got a load of fucking value, because she's going to want to be part. So that's,
you've got more value.
Giving,
We've seen it time and time again in Bogota on nights out, where the guys will be sitting with a table, but they're fucking boring. They're not doing anything. The girls just get distracted because it's like shiny object syndrome. They see a middle-aged charging around like headless fucking rhinoceroses, you know, with bottles of wine stapled to our head, and they're just like, what's this? You know, shiny object syndrome. They come out, right? So, and then what happens? Guys will often invite us to the tables because they're like, oh, fuck this guy's fun. I'm not porking them all. I might as well just get them involved. Which is
the thing about tables as well is that, you know, I've had girls that I've dated who've told me about this. You know, they will have been invited on nights out by promoters and stuff. They'll get into the club free. They get invited to the table. They get the free drinks and stuff. And these girls will often say, yeah, you know, you just used to come in, get the free drinks, and then fuck off to the dance floor. You know, they're not so whatever poor bloke or blokes are paying for that. It's not like they're guaranteed to be getting the access. They're not. I mean, the women just come in like, yeah, all right, a few free drinks. Super fantastic, and then just go off and, you know, go and bang the dude who's more exciting and interesting anyway.
Well, it's what actually Fat Irish Ryan was doing it's his kind of shtick in Warsaw, which works well because he's a sociable guy, gets girls out. But I'm not sure how many of these girls he's really hooking up with, because it's exactly like you said. I've seen him like talking to them. He's got the Nebuchadnezzar of vodka, and then, you know, 20 minutes later, the girls have had a couple of drinks and they sort of disappear to somewhere else. So if you're a promoter or if you're friends with a promoter, that can be a great experience because you're not funding it. But 99.9% of guys watching this, that's not, and you don't have access to that. So then it is about just doing what we say, which is go out and just have fun. Your life should be having fun most of the time. And it's just an extension of that at night and taking the pressure off yourself. And then ironically, you're far more likely to get a result in terms of taking girls home or taking numbers that don't flake, because you're providing this charismatic, fun energy.
You see this one?
That's so good. I saw that earlier.
Mate, you know,
the way you looked in as well, seriously at the comment as well, like this kind of skinny-eyed Iranian sheep herder. It was even better.
But, that's funny.
Yeah, so I think
that is Fat Irish Ryan is from the doors unseen. He could do with losing a few stones. I mean, Irish Ryan, not the sociopath. The
But one thing on that as well, it dovetails a little bit into the Mike Sartain model. So guys, and listen, you know, Mike Sartain, great guy, very intelligent, very fucking, you know, he's very, very switched on, awesome dude, whatever. But, you know, people will look at his lifestyle and say, well, should I be doing the Mike Sartain thing? And listen, he's got a cause. So obviously you can go and have a look at that. And if that's something for you, fine. But what I would counsel is that he is doing it on such a fucking high level that most dudes, like 90, in my view, I think the majority of dudes are not going to get near that. You know, you are not going to be mates with all of the top promoters in Vegas, be mates with all of these fucking swimwear models. Do you know what I mean? Like, and even if you wanted to do that, to get to that, it's going to take you so much time and so much fucking effort that in a way, you might be better off just going to the club and doing what we're saying instead, right?
I think it's low cost and it's low time investment, and you actually enjoy your life. Even if you're doing that model, you've got to stand around posing and fucking playing the serious guy and like playing the guy with good value. Whereas we're saying, literally, go out, come out with us, get bladdered, take whatever you want, and come and have a fucking riot.
How much trend should they take before a night out?
Well, I mean, Trent, as Big Davey Lee says, you know, a shot of Trent keeps you, you know, a shot of Trent a day keeps the doctor away, and it helps you play. He didn't say that, but it you know, it ramps you up.
To be honest, but
I mean, he treats it like a recreational drug, and a small shot of fast-acting Trent really does get you firing on all cylinders.
What would your prescription for a night out be? I'm assuming it's going to be the Tren, Masterin, and Test cocktail.
Yes, they call it RIP, don't they? The RIP combination, which is a small bit of Masteron and Tren Ace and Test, and it really gets you firing on all cylinders. You feel very zoned in and I guess exuding kind of masculine pheromones. So we can guys that are more devil may care and willing to try that. We can try it in Bogota or Mexico City with them if they want.
Yeah, well, we could also make some content about night game on Tren or something. It'd be quite funny. But,
there's a good comment actually from Doors on. He's asked it a few times. Sorry, Les, do you want to hop in first?
No, just to go back on that comment that you were talking about, Troy, I think you do need to, pick your poison in terms of what you're willing to dedicate. Because when I was coaching in London, I'd often take guys on a night out, and you get to meet some promoters, and you have fun in that sense. But to maintain that lifestyle and to actually play it at a level where you're going to start getting results takes a lot of energy. Maintaining relationships with promoters, maintaining relationships with all the people that you meet at night, going out like 2-3 times a week, that's exhausting, man. And if you enjoy that can be fun, and you can play that to your advantage and absolutely smash it. But it's something that you have to be willing to do. Yeah. And if you're not a guy who enjoys going out 2 or 3 times a week because you've got other shit going on, then the juice is not worth a squeeze, in my opinion. That's what I found. But if it is, then you can smash it.
I would agree, yeah. I think to play that game at a decent level takes a lot of time and commitment, and also as well, quite frankly, pretty high level social skills as well, right? Because you've got to be integrated with super cool people. And look, I'm not saying that if you've got that, then great. But if you're you're still somewhere on the flannel scale and you want to try and do that really is.
What level out of 10 on the flannel scale would you qualify?
If you're say you're like a 5.4 on the flannel scale, and you think, right, I want to Sartain, promoter dude, with all of these hot chick friends, I think you're going to struggle, to be honest. I think it's going to be easier to do what we're recommending.
Well, and also less verbal dialogue, isn't it? So if you are, a lot of guys say, "Oh, how do you do attraction in day game? How do you banter? How do you develop this Russell Brand like wit?" The good thing about night game is you don't need that. You need to dial down the verbals and just get a bit more get a bit more drunk and physical, and just get close to women and have
this bloke talking like injecting Spanish bull levels of hormones into yourself will have zero consequences. This is very clearly a low T man who's written this comment.
Veiny member. What a name. Veiny member. You know who it is? It's actually Broody. It's Broody.
Yeah. Look, I mean, each to their own. But I think that, we've been talking a lot behind the scenes about how actually your hormones do play into this so hugely. So obviously, we're being a little bit tongue in cheek here, talking about trend and everything, but
we're not really. We're
advocating. No, we're not actually. No, fuck you. We're not. But anyway, the bottom line is, if you haven't had your hormones checked, if you haven't had your test levels checked and stuff like that, it really is worth doing because it does make a difference. Actually, it really, really does.
It massively does. And we were talking about this behind the scenes, weren't we, Troy? But it's like you made the comment where it doesn't do anything extra. It's like this is how you should have felt if your hormones were on point all along. And so it's like, fuck. You realize how fucking on point you feel as a guy. And you just didn't know that before, right? Just to use myself as an example, low levels of testosterone, not the 3 levels or high, but I had this thing called SHGB, which binds it up. So technically low T, binds it up and the body can't use it. Low levels of growth hormone, and then some slightly sluggish thyroid. And so the net result of that is anxiety, weight gain, poor sleep, lack of sex drive, lack of overall confidence. And when we've started to get this dialed in, and I've been working with Dave Lee for probably 4 months now, you feel 1,000% better. And it's not, I'm not taking bodybuilder dose of anything. I'm just up to the level that I should be normally without deficiencies. And I feel very, very good every day. And it's.
I mean, there is some anecdotal evidence. I mean, he's saying this about Tren, that there is actually some anecdotal evidence, and this is something that we've discussed again behind the scenes, that actually women can smell Tren on you, or they can certainly smell the increased, hormone activity on you. And I mean, you've talked about this a lot, James, how
100%
you're getting so many more IOIs now.
I get extremely quick, like insanely quick blowouts. So I'm getting huge amounts of IOIs. They can just sense. Well, I look foreign, as a Michael has said. I look foreign. I'm walking around with dodgy tattoos. I'm in a war zone with no real purpose, and I'm coming out of the gym sweating and smelling of Tren. So I mean, I'm drawing people in, but the polarization is so fast. Women are either horrified or they're really into it straight away, and I really think the pheromones play a massive role. It's what Sister Sledge was talking about, isn't it, in his articles? But it's actually on point.
Okay. So what should we?
There was one question from Doors Unseen, which is actually good, which is about logistics. This was actually a worthwhile. Yeah, absolutely. The aim, we said it at the beginning, but the whole theme is in the back of your brain. You kind of know that obviously you want to get laid, but the focus is not on going out to get laid. So it's kind of a paradox, but you can still go out, have loads of fun at night, and just have a genuinely good time with people you're with, and take loads of numbers, Instagrams, whatever, and then potentially convert those to dates other days if you don't take a girl home. So it's not this all or nothing mindset of, if I don't have logistics, there's no point going out. That being said, if who was it? There was some dude doing this. I was doing it on dates, but there's another guy we met who was basically his signature move was shagging girls on nights out in bathrooms. I can't remember who it was. I can't remember. Was it Brett? It was either Brett or someone else. But he would make the logistics happen in whatever venue he could, right? He'd try and take us to the smoky area, to take to the bathroom, do whatever he could. So even if you live miles away from the night game venue in terms of like taking you home, there's always the option of trying to make something happen on a night out, or going to a motel for an hour. That's something you can definitely do in Latin America. They're big. They have a big culture of kind of sex motels. We can just rent the room for an hour, which is pretty useful. But absolutely, if you can't take girls home, I mean, if that's an issue for you, generally speaking, because you live at home with your parents or you live miles away from anywhere, obviously you want to fix that as a more overarching thing to do anyway, because that's going to fuck you on dates. But for nights out, absolutely, you can go for nights out.
I think in general the better strategy, what you're saying is, apart from trying to make things happen in the venue or close to the venue, is just getting as many numbers as possible.
Well, that's an interesting.
If you go out and you get like 15, 20 numbers, then you've got like 3 or 4 dates the next day, as opposed to just wasting the whole night with one person where there's a big chance it's probably not going to happen.
And it's happened so many times where you're with that one girl, you're kind of mate guarding her, but then you can sense, because she's not really with you. She's with you, she finds you attractive, but you're killing your value because you're not interacting with the guys you're with, and you're kind of like looking around nervously guarding her. And women just sense it, and they're like, "This guy's a loser." They start eye fucking other guys, and then what happens is you end up losing that girl to someone else, and then he just like checkmate her at the end, and you're like, "Oh fuck's sake." Well, I waste a whole night.
Can we just touch on one thing just to clear up? Because there was for a while a sort of received wisdom that there was no point in getting phone numbers in night game anymore, because it was like, oh lads, fuck it, it's over. Don't get a phone number at night means nothing. It's gonna flirk. You're not going to get any action. I personally just don't. That's not my experience, because I've had many numbers from you know, from night, and it's been absolutely fine. We've been messaging the next day, and then we've ended up, you know, whatever. But what's your view on that? Do you think there's any credence to that, or do you?
Yeah, I think whenever you involve substances of various, you know, intoxication nature, you're going to get more flakes because people just don't remember. We
yes,
maybe try this video message with her as a way of reducing it, or at least the next day you can send a message saying I've got a hangover, and so she remembers your face in a video. But yes, you're going to have to do more work rate at night to compensate for the fact you're going to get more flakes. But it's so much easier to do because you can hop around different bars, and there's literally scores of hot women in each bar. And so your approaching can go through the roof in terms of your numbers, right? The problem with day game is often the lead time is you've got 10, 15 minutes between approaches, all this sort of bollocks. It's like, how many can you really do in a session? Whereas night game, you can approach 30 women in about an hour in Bogota or Mexico City.
Well, Myron of Fresh and Fit fame, we used to, before he became, you know, they became so big, we used to do streams and we talk about night game because he used to do a lot of night game in Miami, and he would talk about to get a same night lay, he would sometimes talk to 40, even 50 girls in the night in order to find one who's available and DTF for that night. So I'm sure he was getting some interest from others, but it was very sort of good looking loser. Like he'd go in, all right, start the conversation. If there's like a kind of not a great interest, all right, fuck off, right on to the next one. And he'd really just play the numbers in order to get something to happen that night. So volume, you know, it is a big part of this. Of course, what we're I guess recommending is this sort of hybrid thing of go in there, be the life and soul of the party. But obviously, at the same time, you still do need to be engaging with girls. You still, you know, like, so you're being the life and soul of the party. There's some birds like dancing around you, or maybe they're kind of smiling or laughing because you're doing this crazy shit. And then you pull her in and you have the conversation with her, go for the make out, whatever, right? So, and you could do that multiple times over the night before you find. I mean, I think that classic night that we were out, James. You know, the first Teatron, and we were out till 6 a.m. It was almost like a process of elimination, wasn't it? It was almost like, all right, who's the last woman standing? And then she's the one who's going to come back to the hotel, right?
Well, no, you actually successfully semi-mate guided her for a couple of hours, and it actually worked out, didn't it? Because the girl I was with wingmanned you to make sure she got overheard.
That is true. Well, that's true, but it wasn't quite like that, because what happened was that night I'd spoken to like a whole bunch of different girls. There was quite a few possibles on the table. But obviously, as the night goes on, you know, most of those they drift off. They're not around anymore. She was still around, and she was kind of like in my vicinity. So I could sense that, right, okay, so there's I think there's some decent interest here. So I didn't make guard her for 2, or maybe it was like an hour and a half, but it was sort of like, it was very much towards the end of the night.
Yeah.
You know, we were, you know, so it wasn't like like 5 hours. I'm like this.
No, you played it right. You played it completely accurately. Well, and it still almost didn't work out.
Because that gay dude who fucking
he was being an idiot. But I just get this feeling that women can kind of sense that women are so attuned at sensing neediness, aren't they? And the Mark Manson Burke models, he talks about neediness and non-neediness as the key filter for everything, which I agree with. And if she even has a hint of like, oh, he's needy, he needs this, she has so many options in a night out, and she's single, that she hasn't got that much commitment to you because you haven't fucked her or anything, presumably. So she can just leave with someone else, and that's where you're just in dangerous territory if you start mate guarding girls. I think
you are, and it's very dangerous territory. And I was in that situation once, actually, and well, I'm sure I've been in it many times, but I remember one time in London in Torture Garden, you know, the seedy fetish club, and it was sort of somewhere like, it was like 2 a.m. and it was a 6 a.m. close or something, and I met this really cute girl, very much my type, you know, like a Magda. She was French. She was wearing this like kind of French maid's outfit, really sexy, whatever. And anyway, we kind of got on. We started making out, blah blah blah. But it was kind of just slightly too early in the night, and she was with friends and stuff. And I literally ended up in the mate guard situation from hell, you know. And this other dude did come in and
this is a sex party as well. So this the ultimate. People are literally running around with hard-ons, right? So
I mean, it was the and I did manage to. I mean, fortunately, I managed to do it, but I wouldn't recommend trying to hang in with one girl for that length of time, because
it's very stressful and it ruins your night out, quite frankly. Doesn't it?
And even if it works, you just feel like a bit of a chump. Do you know what I mean? You like on that occasion it worked, and we ended up going home together and stuff. But you still feel like a bit of a clown, because you kind of had to. I don't know.
I think be open to it. Yeah. Right? So you know, you want to. You don't want to be a retard with it. Like if there's a girl, you're not really mate guiding, but she's clearly hanging around, and she keeps coming back. You know, she goes to her friends, but then she sees you're having loads of fun. she's really into you, then you've got to make the decision, right? Do I leave the night out? Which is actually quite a big decision, because when we go out, we genuinely want to have fun and charge around, and we'll get numbers or whatever. And just accept there's some flakes. But we're not these like ruthless killers where we're just leaving after 5 minutes because there's a girl into us. Because it's kind of like, well, no, hold on. We've got Saturday night out here with a load of guys we actually like.
Yeah. And we're trying to film content. We're trying to film content to rope in more ringers on YouTube.
Exactly. But I mean, the purists like would say, well, as soon as you get that first girl, fuck off. It's like, no, we're not that lone wolf sociopathic. We actually want to be around the people we go out with, so we're not just going to leave after 10 minutes. And often what happens is you'll find a girl quite early on in the night who's into it, but then you got the decision: do you send her back into the ocean and just take her digits, or do you try and make guard her, or do you go home? And most often with us, we're not trying to go home that early. So it's like the best thing you can do really is just take the number, go off, and if she keeps reappearing, then maybe you can make the decision 2 hours later, right, should I just fuck off with her?
I think yeah, all that stuff I think is very situational, depending on, the mates you're with, what time of the night it is. Like I guess it's a case by case, but I think in general, I don't know.
Well, we can't go fucking home with anyone, even if we wanted to, right? Because we're fucking technically teaching guys on a night out. Although it's basically we throwing Nebuchadnezzar's and vodka on people.
Yeah,
but we're technically getting paid for that, so we can't just leave the club, can we? We're kind of there. But I guess what we'd be saying to the students is, absolutely, if you get the opportunity, ditch everyone and leave after 5 minutes. So I guess there's nuances.
Yeah, I suppose it depends. Yeah, you have to make that decision yourself in the moment, really. I mean, obviously, I think, if you meet a super cute girl and she's obviously very into you, and you think there's an opportunity to make something happen, or you just bathroom toilet it like Mr. Tusk, like your entire love life now is based in.
Apparently, it's all about. But they've caught me in 2 venues now. But they seem to blame the girl, not me. I think they take one look at me and they can either smell the trend or the idiocy pumping out through my veins. And it's like, we're not even going to bother talking to him. Like, you come here and start speaking to the girl in Ukraine. So I kind of get a free pass on it. And then I go back in and pay some crumpled bribe, and they kind of just, usher me out. And that's the end of it. Yeah. We've got a couple of good names, good comments here. Punk Ask says Bullchinian. Yes, always a favorite of mine. One of the greatest movie scenes of all time. If you haven't watched it, you need to watch it. Just type in Will Smith Bullchinian and you'll be entertained. Hung Warlock, that's got to be, a salute to the best name on this stream. What a name that is. And then Salty Popcorn, did James help any charities in Kiev between gaming? Yes, the Babushka Society. I've been making sperm donations.
It's such a virtue signaling comment, that, isn't it?
I think he's just Salty Popcorn, if my memory serves, isn't actually. I think he watches quite a lot of our content. I think he's a reasonable guy. I think he's just
okay. Sorry, Mr. Popcorn.
Sorry, Mr. Popcorn. Your popcorn. Worst. We've obviously got to talk about the worst. I mean, you two. I've seen you two in action. Very, very good at night. I mean, the worst night game I've ever seen. It's got to go to Modern Life Dating. Literally falling into garbage bags, and I don't buy garbage bags. I don't mean this one. I mean actual garbage bags on nights out. We have footage of that, so at some stage when I get really high and angry, I'll release it all over the internet, and his cult leader status will be snipped off like a efficient rabbi.
Mate guarding never works, in my opinion. Following a girl around a nightclub, sticking to her gun makes you needy. Either take her home quick or let her keep coming back to you. Yeah, no, I agree. And basically, so that girl, again, talking about that night in Bogota, again, that girl kept sort of coming back and hanging around. So at that point, you kind of know, okay, right, I think there's reasonable interest here. I think you have to I think there comes a point in the night when you can start to hone in on that one particular girl, but it's pretty late. I'd say it's within really the last hour, or maybe the last hour and a little bit more. But anything more than that, and you're setting yourself up for failure. And you get to the point you don't even want to go to the toilet. Oh, what if I go to the restroom and then some other dude swoops it? I mean,
it's so true, though, isn't it? It's so embarrassing. You've got yourself into the situation where you're becoming incredibly needy and you're being a weasel. Yeah. And then guys can sense it and then the girl can sense it. And it's just a horrible position to put yourself in.
As with all of these things, the best attitude you can have in the world is to genuinely not give a fuck. Now, it's hard mentally sometimes to get there, particularly if you've met a girl who is really attractive, she's super your type, and she seems to be into you, because then the stakes feel higher. But really, if you could just genuinely not give a fuck and be like, yeah, okay, well, maybe I lose her, maybe I don't, then that ironically is the best mindset to have for actually something to end up happening. And the way you get to that is by having abundance. And the way you get abundance actually in the night game context is doing what we're describing, which is just running around talking to a bunch of people. Because, I think on the nights we've been out, both of it, what tends to happen, all of us, what tends to happen is it's not just like there's one lone prospect. There's usually a few prospects who are sort of milling around. And it's a bit like, well, if it doesn't work out with her, there's always, her over there. So you've got to give yourself options, and you give yourself options by having that energy that draws people in.
Well, no, it's also what you're talking about really is symptomatic of abundance mentality, which is, okay, if it doesn't work out with her, there's always another. And that's a great mindset to have overall, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it links in with the thing that we're saying overall here, which is go out to have a great night. Don't go out and judge the success on the night on whether you got some girl into your bed. Go out. Because like you said, even if then you come home alone, but you could be like, that was just fucking amazing. That was so funny. That was such an amazing night. That should be the end game,
100%. There's a comment from Hung Warlock. I think the problem with night game is for most of us, we're lone wolves and the majority of bars have a group focus. Well, if you are a lone wolf, come and join us in Mexico City or Bogota, because you're going to be charging out with not an overkill of guys. We're going to split it into groups, but there'll be 2 or 3 dudes with you, right? And a coach. So it'll be a really good ratio to get stuck in, and then you don't feel like the weirdo in the bar on your own. Yeah,
although actually I think somebody earlier had asked, and even if they didn't, it might be worth touching on, what about solo night game? Is that doable? I think it's doable, but
it's doable, but it takes a certain type of mindset. You've got to be quite mentally resilient to do it. And it's a great, some of the best nights I've ever had when I've been stranded in places and I just get bored. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm going out. But
yeah,
I've also had some of the worst nights out I've ever had, because you've got to be so disciplined with your mindset. But if you're willing to try it, and Good Looking Loser had a great program on this, how to go out on your own. It was like a 10-week course for free online, and it just got you to do it in stages. So stage 1 is like first night, and sit in a bar for 30 minutes. Next night, sit in the bar and talk to 2 people. It was gradually building up like that. It really comes down to just overcoming your own resistance and anxiety. It can absolutely be done, but
whether
I think
the most fun thing to do is another matter.
Yeah, I think if we're being honest, it's just more fun to go out with a couple of guys, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. I mean, I
think it's good. I think it's good training as well, though, to like you say, James, build up that sense of resilience.
Yeah,
because it is fucking difficult to go out by yourself, right? You're sitting in the corner feeling like a loser. But if you can, go out, be social, and create those good connections with people around you, then, I mean, you're bulletproof.
Yeah.
And so I've got to jump off. So I don't know whether you want to carry it on or how you want to play it.
Well, we'll probably bring it to a close in a minute. But this guy's saying, can you guys talk about your views on doing any of this in the West? You're literally raging around third world countries as rich, tall gringos. Like, come on, is London not worth bothering in?
Right, let me jump off then. I'll leave you guys to it.
All right, see you later, James.
Nice one. Take care. Bye.
Well, I mean, look, people. I mean, let's be real. Are people still getting laid in London? Yes, obviously. Are people having sex in London? Yes. Is it therefore doable? Obviously, it is. It's not like there's some kind of sexual drought happening in London. I mean, lots of people are hooking up every single day, probably every single minute. There's probably people banging in my apartment building right now. What a disgusting thought. So, is it possible? Yes. Is it the easiest place to go and do? I wouldn't say. For me, I think personally, I'd prefer London as a day game place and probably like an evening game place. I don't personally do a lot of night game here now, but I have in the past, and it's been fine. It's been successful. So I don't know. Les, have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I 100% do. Obviously, like you said, Troy, obviously it's going to be easier, right? If you are someone or something different in the environment, obviously it's going to be easier, but value is still value if you're out at night. If you're standing there, if you're having a good time with your mates, you can still, garner a lot of positive attention. So it definitely is doable. And again, going back to just the initial thought process, which is don't go out with the mindset of pulling, right? Don't go out with the mindset of pulling. Go out with the mindset of just having fun, and then you're more likely to pull anyway. That's from my experience. You're much, much more likely to just pull anyway if you do go out at night. And also, guys are obsessed with, obviously, if you can't travel, then I would suggest working towards that, or coming up with a plan of taking a few long holidays, but don't stick to London. Go to cool places, go to Colombia, go to Mexico, go to some places in Europe, and have the benefit of being that sparkling item in a bar or a club.
Yeah. So I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. I mean, yeah, you're going to get more bang for your buck if you go elsewhere, but at the same time, is it impossible in London? No, absolutely not. I mean, I've dated. I'm in London now. I date in London. I don't do the clubs as much, but that's more because I'm so old now that they won't let me in without a supervised carer. But it's definitely doable. Chris says, any Vegas boot camps coming up? Drop me an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, because I am going to be back in the States quite soon. So we could possibly talk about something. So drop us an email and we can discuss.
Cool.
Unless there's
Troy,
anything.
I think.
Yep.
No, I think I'm going to have to hop off quite soon, mate.
Okay. All right. Well, look, let's bring this one. Let's bring this one to a close anyway.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, look. Thanks ever so much, guys. What we need to tell you is. Actually, I don't have the trailer, but anyway, Mexico City Bootcamp coming up 5th to the 8th of October. Myself, Tusk, Les. It's going to be a blinder. It's going to be absolutely fucking awesome. Mexico City, fantastic place for ladies, for practicing this stuff. Very safe, very cool nightlife. The places where we go to, very cool places to go out. So if you've been sitting on the fence about training with us, now is really the time, because it's going to be the last big boot camp of the year. And man, we are absolutely stoked. So
100%.
Again,
the dates for that, just to I don't know if you mentioned them, 1st to the 8th of October.
Yeah.
1st to the 8th of October. It's going to be the last time, one of the very few times that we're actually all going to be together. Myself, you, really Troy, Francis, James, Tusk. It's going to be very cool. Very, very cool. Great time of the year. It's going to be a lot of fun. Highly recommended.
So you can either email info@jamestusk.com or you can email troy@realtroyfrancis.com for all the info on that. And Chris, email troy@realtroyfrancis.com and we can have a chat about Vegas. That's it really. We will see you again. I think we're doing another one of these next week. We'll be doing one on Tuesday, I think. So Until then, see you guys soon.
Good stuff. Cheers, mate.